Hey Booktube, I was thinking that this month I am going to be rather awash in literature, which is a very concerning thing because I know myself I'm not a fellow who can live on the highest, most refined food of all. I also need to balance my diet with junky food that is not good for me at all. And funnily enough, in the midst of that, came to the rescue Paperback Junkie, Matt at Paperback Junkie, who's doing the Pentathon, the most very non-committal read along for all of us lightweights out there. And in this, we're going to kind of indulge in pulp for the 5 weeks of September, but very small little slivers of pulp, because I mean most pulp was written for magazines and was written in just tiny little bathroom break stories, stuff that you could you could just kind of digest. It's the sitcoms, the fun fantasy sitcoms of the age, and the really best of that stuff, the most energetic and vivid and hilarious of that stuff survives to this day. So I thought I'd run through the 5 weeks and just let you know what the challenge as such as it is. This is a very unchallenging challenge week, which I really appreciate, especially as I'm trying to work my way through Shakespeare. So week 1 is read something by Edgar Rice Burroughs, and this is considered the probably the most taxing of the challenges, because Edgar Rice Burroughs seemed to have only written his stuff in full length, but lovely the pulp thing. When they mean full length, usually what they mean are basically what would be considered a novella size now. And because I wanted to go with a very non-committal part of this read along, I wanted to just make this, what do I have? And I think, and that's basically my rules. Like, okay, what do I have in the bookshelves? And if I have it, great, I'll read it. So the first one, which I've already started, is Edgar Rice Burroughs, and it's the Pellucidar series, and this isn't even the very first one. It's a Hollow Earth Tales. I think the first one is like the core of the Earth, or from the center of the Earth, or whatever. And so yes, I've started on that. And I love Hollow Earth stuff. There's Edgar Allan Poe, who's really he's a pulp dude in literature clothing, I think. And people like Rudy Rucker did a Hollow Earth story, so I've enjoyed those. So this is going to be my foray into that. I've read one other Edgar Rice Burroughs. I think I read Princess of Mars, which was enjoyable. It was definitely okay. Yeah, this is fun adventure stuff, and I didn't think much more of it. But yeah, it's like, okay, I'm in the mood for that, especially as I'm going through my Shakespeare at the moment for Shaketube. So yes, that'll be number 1 for my Edgar Rice Burroughs part of the challenge. And I'm already a fair ways into it, and it's Tuesday as I'm recording this. God knows when I'll actually put this out. Number 2 is week 2 is read something by H.P. Lovecraft. I haven't decided on what I'm going to read from H.P. Lovecraft, because I think everything I have of H.P. Lovecraft is probably electronic. I've probably got an e-version of like sort of collected stuff of his things. So I've actually in the past little while I've actually read H.P. Lovecraft, because I've read modern authors, Kij Johnson, and another fellow whose name I can't remember right now, who maybe he'll come to me before the end of the video, who have written their own takes spinning off of H.P. Lovecraft tales of his sexism and racism, and kind of having a good vibration off of that. So yeah, I'll let you know on the H.P. Lovecraft front. It'll be, most likely for him, it's going to be a short story, so that'll be quick. This is the most non-committal read along, and I gotta like that. So I'll let you know in the video, whatever video I make. Probably by the time I've dropped a video on Edgar Rice Burroughs, I'll have hopefully made a decision on the H.P. Lovecraft thing. So and for week 3, I've got my my Robert E. Howard, which Robert E. Howard is actually a fellow that I actually have a fair amount. That's my easy to hold collected stuff of all of his Conan stories, not the ones edited by L. Sprague de Camp, and L. Sprague de Camp and Lynn thing. Probably not going to read that one. It's like me. Yeah. And, you know, a lot of people are going to be doing that. I've got his Vultures of Wapiton, which I think is sort of, you know, it's more of kind of his boldest adventures yet, kind of a Western with a gunfighter. It's like the gunfighter. You've got the Iron Man. I've got the Iron Man. I've got the Sword Woman. I've got the Sowers of Thunder, which, you know, Robert E. Howard, he was like the Tigers of the Sea. I think I've even got some kind of his boxing story somewhere. But what I think I'm going to actually read is probably a section of the Heroes of Bear Creek, which are is without these no collection of Howard is complete without these hilarious action-packed tales of Breckenridge Elkins and cousin Bearfield Buckner. Theirs is the West that never was, where scoundrels and heroes clashed with 6 guns and branding irons, where honor was only a word and a survival was everything. One of the world's most acclaimed and imitated adventure authors, Robert E. Howard's own, like, you know, his life was cut. See, so this is complete in one volume. This is A Gent from Bear Creek, The Pride of Bear Creek, and The Mayhem on Bear Creek. I'll probably read The Gent from Bear Creek. And I remember reading this as a teenager and actually finding it quite funny. So I'll have to see what it's like now, because I mean, I know he's like grim, dour, you know, Conan. And I remember these stories being actually kind of funny slapstick, so I'll have to see. I mean, maybe that's the thing as of a teen. The height of comedy was, you know, someone getting whacked in the face with a 2x4, and, you know, so we shall see. So that's going to be my thing. It'll be A Gent from Bear Creek in this collection of Breckenridge Elkins stories. Week 4 is a hard-boiled noir. I was thinking, I mean, I read Elmer Leonard and stuff like that, but that's sort of like kind of modern. I've been reading Richard Stark, Donald Westlake writing as Richard Stark, and even that seems a little modern. Matt in his video actually suggested going to, downloading a copy of maybe Black Mask magazine and reading a copy of that. That sounds like it's like maybe like, oh, that's kind of like older pulp magazine stuff. So I think I will do that. I'll find this Black Mask magazine, and I'll read an issue of that and report back on that. Just going to pick one, whichever one kind of tickles my fancy, or if like, oh, I recognize a couple of those names, and maybe I'll go from there if I actually do recognize names. I'm not actually that much into the hard-boiled crime or noir stuff, so that'll be interesting. And week 5 is read a comic book, and yeah. I'm gonna find I went through my I don't actually have a lot of single issue comic books anymore. Most of what I have are kind of like are indeed kind of the graphic novels, and I've kind of fallen away from superhero ones. This I think I still have. For some reason I just love that cover. That is a Fantastic Four. I believe that's in the David Byrne era, which was back when I was actually reading superhero comics. And there's Sue Storm in the midst of terrible destruction and stuff like that, and that's a definite possibility of something to kind of like go back to that time of comic books. I could read a little bit of nonfiction. David Collier's book. This one is in this issue the Ethel Catherwood story, which I'm assuming is the Olympian Navy on the front there. So that could also be an option. I've got a Swamp Thing. These are just like kind of random comic books I pulled out. So there's, you know, this is a bit more what I'm reading. I guess I'm sort of reading now. It's like the arty stuff. 00, which actually it's a collection of stuff, but it's from Richard Sala, and there's like, you know, Evil Eye, which is him, which has often got petite young women getting menaced by villains. It's actually got a very much of a pulp kind of sensibility to it in a modern era. Or, well, this is something. Castle Waiting is Linda Medley, who I think I'm just going to do a full video at some point on the Castle Waiting thing. But this is the first issue of Castle Waiting, and yeah, I think this will be more of a full thing. So most likely, I'm actually kind of inclined to go towards like either Evil Eye yeah, to go back to my comic book roots and just pop open this one issue of the Fantastic Four and just let you know what I thought of that and kind of give you my memories on comic books. So yes, that is my announced sort of TBR. Obviously, I'm being very non-committal in this very non-committal read along. So yeah, if you're into the pulp stuff, I think it's still maybe not too late, just because it is such a quick thing. You can Edgar Rice Burroughs, I think you could kind of zip through one of his books pretty quickly, you know, and especially some of the readers I know on there, for just like, okay, here's the bottom of the barrel kind of gungy, kind of super light disposable entertainment stuff, which yeah, I think it's got a real importance to it, in a way. I don't know. It taps into something just by not taking itself seriously. It reveals a lot about a time and just, you know, what appealed back then and what we find still appeals now, and what kind of attitudes and stuff that we kind of go, well, about, you know. And I think that's all great stuff and all good stuff to have in a readathon. So yeah, I thought this was like my lovely counterpoint. This is a lovely counterpoint for me. So I can mix my Julius Caesar with my Pellucidar, and yeah, and see what horrible combination happens, but to, you know, balance things out for myself. All right, more videos later.